Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to welcome you to the third episode of today's Top Tech Leaders. The goal of this podcast is to share insights and knowledge of top CTOs and product leaders on the latest leadership and what they've learned throughout their journey. We'll cover management tips and tricks, organizational structures, tools, and best practices on how to successfully lead your product team. Our goal is to bring valuable insights to CTOs and CPOs of all seniorities. My name is Marc Clemens. I'm the founder and CEO of CodeControl 9am. And for today's podcast, it is a pleasure to welcome Daniel Schäfer. Daniel is our very own CTO at 9am, a senior engineer with over 20 years of experience working across international companies such as eBay, Siemens, Bayer, and Telefonica. He's also the co-founder of Remote Experts, a tech talent nearshoring company in Pakistan. Welcome, Daniel, and thanks a lot for joining us today.
Hello, glad to be here.
To get started, I would first like to hear a bit about yourself. Where have you lived, especially in the last years? Where are you based at the moment? Tell us something about you.
Certainly. I have been starting my career like a bit over 20 years ago in the Canary Islands as a software developer, working for smaller companies, like local web hosting companies. And then after 5 years, went back to Germany, lived in different cities there. And the last 8 years, been living in Germany, in Berlin, working for bigger corporations. So, which gave me like really cool insights of working for both small and big companies. And I think the last 2.5 years, working on 9am. That's me in a nutshell.
Really nice. And now, if I understand right, I know, you've been traveling for quite a bit, no? I think for about a year, you've been traveling the world and working remotely.
Exactly. Yeah, like 1.5 years, I think ago, I started short-term traveling, and now I think for a year, I'm actually completely in travel mode. I don't have a base anymore, so I really live in hotels and Airbnbs.
And you enjoy
Currently in
it.
Southeast Asia. It's amazing, yeah, for sure.
Nice. Really sweet. When we prepped the podcast, we were discussing a bit what kind of topics really interest you in regard of being a tech leader, a CTO. And one topic came back over and over, and that was work-life balance. Now, before we dig really deep into this topic, I would like to understand, how does a normal day look like for you?
Yeah. So first of all, I think why we picked the topic is also because I have experience in both, like burning out, being workaholic for a lot of years, and then recently in the last 2 years or like 3 years, making a change, having like work-life balance and really experiencing what I was missing. And therefore, I think I have like good opinion on what to tell others, on what to not to do and what to do. Yeah. So my typical workday looks like getting up whenever I feel like, mostly like 9 in the morning, 9:30, and put in some working hours, like 4 or 5 hours, while everybody else in Europe is sleeping, which is really nice. So I'm like seven
That's quite
hours
nice.
ahead of Morocco. I think 6 hours ahead of Berlin. So it gives me really quiet time in the morning, which I love. And yeah, then I go out, have dinner with friends, and sometimes take a complete hour extra just to enjoy the weather. Sometimes, if I can, do surfing, and then put another session in later in the day.
Very nice. Yeah,
Um,
well, you mentioned surfing now already, because that would have been my next question. Is there stuff that you like outside of working? And I know personally that you work really hard, but at the same time, I know that you've done parkour. So,
mm.
what are the things that you do outside?
So yeah, surfing is one thing that I discovered in the beginning when I was starting to travel in Portugal, and then continue doing it in Canary Islands and Morocco and then Thailand. It's just really got the passion of mine. And apart from this, I try to connect with other remote working people, expats. So I go to meetups, get to know other people, make friends quickly, and then I just explore whatever the country has to offer. So if it's beaches or temples or whatever the website, the internet says you should do in the country, I do it. So I'm not
Sweet.
have
Okay.
no problems with being a tourist. Yeah,
Well, nice. So getting the kind of new experiences in sports, but also really getting new experiences in and connecting with
right.
people. I like that.
Or
Yeah.
think like
Nice.
board game evenings. I love them. Or yeah, just
Okay, so you're part of the stereotype of a developer with board games,
I am, yes.
and role plays as well, and long nights. Or
Not that much role play game, but very complex board games with little figurines and a lot of dice. And yeah, yeah, yeah,
very nice.
exactly.
I can imagine that's easy to get your mind off work with it. Cool.
Certainly.
Um, Now, going to the topic of work-life balance, I think the first thing that always pops to mind is what is your definition of it? Well, how does or what is the perfect work-life balance for you?
I can tell you what the not so perfect work-life balance is, and this is what I lived for, I think, over 10 years. And this is making a lot of progress in work, but not having a personal life. So I was really focused on career, um, like having friends superficially, but not really maintaining them, not meeting up with them because I just worked really hard. At the end of the day, I didn't really have much energy left to do stuff outside of work. I didn't have a relationship for over a decade, so stuff like this. So um, this is definitely the opposite of work-life balance. And the definition would be, yeah, if you achieve both personal goals as well as work goals. So if you make progress in both areas, I think that's really important.
Okay, so for you, it's not
Ideally,
a 9 to 5, and then other time it is more like what is the satisfaction on both sides, on the work side as well as the life side.
exactly, exactly. So ideally, you get up in the morning and you're like excited to start working, to pick up where you left off in the evening with the work, but also at the same time look forward to meet up with friends, do some sports, do the nerdy board game sessions. Like if you just
Yeah,
like
cool.
look forward to do both, like is ideal. I mean, of course, there's always days where work is tough and you just have more looking
Focus
forwards
on
time
work or
to, yeah, yeah, exactly.
yeah, of course. But
But in general, mm,
I find it really interesting because I think the discussion is always about these topics. Do you need to forbid employees to check their emails after work hours? Is there an amount of break? And you take this whole time element completely out of it and say, well, it's about feeling happy with both things, right? Being happy at
yeah.
work and being happy in your life. Really
And
nice.
when you say like forbid people to check the emails after work, this is more a symptom, it's not the cause. So if you have a fulfilled personal life, you don't check the emails anyways because you're busy meeting friends and having fun, right?
Mm.
So if you find yourself checking live, sorry, if you find
Checking life
yourself
also.
checking emails, um, then this is just like indication that you don't have enough going on outside of of work, I think. So
That's
because I've
also
been
really
there,
interesting. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Mm,
Because I think you
mm,
mentioned it in the intro that you burned out yourself, and I think it's interesting what you say is like checking your emails outside of work means actually is an indicator of being having no balance slash going in a direction of burning out. Is that what happened for you, or how did it look for you when you burned out?
yeah. So basically, actually, I burned out twice in my life and had several sessions where I could see it coming, but I was smart by then because I had that experience before. So I could avoid it back then, and I think quite able to avoid it by now. But two times in the past, I wasn't able. Um, that's true. First time, I was working for a web hosting company, and I was the only administrator managing like 200 servers, meaning I was the only one who could do things if there was a DDoS attack or a hacker attempt, or if a server went down because of hardware failure or whatever. So while I really got the pride out of it and was like, it was good experience being like not replaceable and really important. It also meant I had to work when I was sick or overworked, or so if I had a long day, like 12 hours, because there was like a really big problem, and then I go to bed and work like for 2 hours, get some sleep, and then alarm goes off because there's another issue, and you can't say no, I'm tired, I can't. So this was the situation where I ended up also being burnt out when I lost control over when and how much I can work.
So
So
really being not in control of your own time and being non-stop on call,
right,
it's just a recipe for disaster.
right. And then the second time was actually quite different, but I found there's a common connection. So the second time is when I started my freelance career,
Mm.
and I took on a project with a fixed budget, which was so I totally underestimated the scope, like everybody does. But if you're a freelancer and you take on a contract, then it's up to you to make a realistic price. And I just made a way too cheap price, which means the project took way longer. And also I was like, I allowed the client to put more extra wishes into the
Mm.
request. The scope
New
grew.
feature
I didn't say
requests.
no. And in the end, the money that I got barely paid the bills. And I got stressed because I knew I had to finish the project in order to get a new contract to pay the bills. So I had like
Mm.
really pressure to actually work, because if I don't work, I wouldn't be able to pay the rent. So I put really long hours in. I felt like I really need a break, but the the money constraint then forced me to continue. So in both cases, it was like the lack of um, being in control of my own time. When I felt I need a break, I couldn't take a break, right?
Mm. And I mean, I guess there's also the part of under, especially I don't know, I know it for myself when you're a bit younger and you have this phase of hard work, um, you might not have the skill yet, the ability to listen to yourself and really understand if you do something different now, if you don't do anything different now, you will burn out and you actually can't continue to perform, but you stop performing. So did it happen to you that you were then at some point really shut down and you couldn't perform at all anymore?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so in the first case with the web hosting company, I was quite lucky because the reason why I was the only system administrator was because the company wasn't doing that well to hire another one. So, and
Mm.
pretty shortly, the company was bankrupt anyways. So the problem went away. So I was forced to make a change, which was good, because this was one of my first jobs, and it was scary to make a change. I'm really
Mm.
honest here. And in the second time, I just had to be brutally honest, and say this is how it works, because like I tell that I will not be able to finish the work right now, and then cut the scope, make sure another developer can take over, and then really be brutal and say I don't work for a month
Mm.
in order to cure.
So that was also your way out, was really saying absolutely 100% no work and resetting, I guess focusing a bit on your hobbies that you had before, or how did you have this feeling that you had no hobbies anymore, or you were empty from a personal life perspective? And did you manage to
Oh yeah,
recover this
sure.
quickly?
Yeah, sure. But I mean, I didn't have hobbies anyways. I was like the most boring person for a long time. So, but it wasn't the hobbies that then saved me. It was really just like the feeling of not having any responsibility and really doing nothing all day that was really important. So it wasn't like meeting up with friends. I think even this would have been too much. It was really just not doing anything. It's really scary actually for anyone who hasn't experienced this. You can't imagine this. It's like really you cannot do anything anymore.
Mm.
Like you're not capable. Is I wouldn't believe it myself if I wouldn't have experienced it.
And how would you say that you tackle it these days? I mean, you work a lot, I know that. You're very
Mm.
dedicated to your team and to the company, to the product. Um, so what do you do to not burn out these days?
Um, Several things like I do not take on projects that um, where I would be irreplaceable. So I will not take on projects where I'm a buzz factor, which means I will not end up in a position where I cannot say I need a break and then I can't because I'm irreplaceable. So this is one thing. Another thing is like I don't take on projects that will end up me in a bad financial position. So, for example, it could be tempting to take on a project where you only get paid in shares, um,
Mm.
but then it takes maybe longer, it takes maybe 3 years, and you end up not that you end up losing money. This takes a lot of motivation away, and then you might get stressed about this, and then lose joy, and then you might also
Mm.
enter the burnout phase because the motivation is gone, but you feel like you have to work, otherwise all the money that you invested is gone. You know, like um, those two things are really important. And I don't have those at the moment, and I will, I think, never take on those contracts. And this means as soon as I realize it's a bit much, I'm just honest and say I need to take a week or two off, even if it's like the worst time ever. Just hoping that there's other people that can replace me. And so
Yeah.
far, luckily, we have a great team, so this is not an issue.
Yeah, I think it's something really interesting that I saw from the sideline. Something that you do in the product team is regularly there's messages saying, "Hey, um, I continued working on this and that for until really late. I will take tomorrow morning off." Or this has been a really intense sprint. The next 2 days I need to do. We have something that's called snail time, where you can work a bit, but you're not available per se. And you say, "Oh, I take snail time now for the next 2 days," or something like that. And I think from my perspective, I can see how you were the first one in the company really implementing this in the team, that it's so open to speak it out and say, "Hey, I need some time off so that I can perform later again." So yeah, I think really great way of dealing with it. And I guess before that, it comes always that you need to listen to yourself. No, you need to listen to how do you feel? Is it getting to a limit or not? Um,
Yeah,
is there
exactly.
anything
So
that is an early indicator for you for that?
yeah, so the most dangerous part is like feeling tired, feeling the lack of drive, and then say to yourself, okay, I just power through. It's just like 3 more days. I think this is really dangerous. This is where you make or break the burnout. So if you feel tired and you feel like it's a struggle every hour you work, it's already at a point where you should be stop working for a couple of days and then listen to yourself if you feel like working again. And if not, maybe consider taking a week off.
Mm.
Um, so, mm,
Then perhaps another question, because I know that you're um, how do I phrase it the right way? Um, a nerd when it comes to productivity optimization. So perhaps not now where while you're traveling, but I know your workstation when you were in Berlin with everything to arrange all screens and all different kinds of ways of arranging a table. Um, but are there any of these productivity hacks or ways that you structure your week that play positive into having a better work-life balance? Is that an important part for you, or is it just a little interest that you have to make sure productivity is high on the schedule, the list?
right. Certainly, it still is a hobby of mine or like a passion of mine. By the way, even while I travel, I have 3 keyboards, an eye tracker, and so I have a proper, super
Okay,
productive setup here.
you have a good setup there as well. Okay.
Um, But yeah, I mean, in the past, I looked a lot into productivity. So um, I tried a lot of things like GTD is probably a lot of people know it, getting things done, um, and tried different methods that I read in books. Um, but I'm honest, like I did not really sustain many of them. So, but one thing that I still continue to do is like when I get up in the morning, first things is I list down the three most important tasks I want to get done in this day. And important here is like this is not only work or not only personal, it's really like from both, like whatever makes more
Mm.
sense. I try to make progress like in both personal life and in work life. Um,
So
so, for
something to keep
example,
to stay
mm,
productive and to have the feeling of having achieved something at the end of the day, and having this feeling of
exactly,
I've done what I had to do.
yeah, exactly. So in the distant past, I know the feeling that I worked on one project at work, like from day to night. Um, and at the end of the day, I didn't have energy to do anything else, right? And also, I didn't really see the achievements because I couldn't check them off from the list. So now I really try to have, even if it's a long ongoing project at work, for example, I say like, okay, today I want to get those components done, fully working, right? It doesn't mean the whole project is done or the whole chapter, but I have something that I can say I achieved this. And then I also make sure the other two tasks, for example, I make progress on learning Spanish or um, learning a song on the piano, like something that is like give me the sense of achievement, so
Mm.
that at the end of the day, I really see, okay, I managed to have the work-life balance, for example, or if it's only work one day, then at least like I spent a lot of time and energy, but I can see, okay, I checked the box, I got something done,
Mm.
which is really important for to be motivated.
Yeah, super nice.
Mm.
Um,
Um,
now,
yeah, I
yeah,
may add to this maybe.
go ahead.
So ideally, but this is something I do on and off. I do it less often when it's getting hectic, even though then you should do it even more. Is the weekly planning where I just reflect on the current life during the weekend and see what areas I want to make progress, and then put them into my reminders for this week. Like I said, a specific day, and then they pop up in my calendar during the week, and I can in the morning when I do the planning then pick those a task on the reminder. Um, so I have like more time during the weekend to think about the broader picture, and not only in the morning where I think about the current day.
Mm.
So
Interesting. I'm sorry.
yeah,
I'm very sorry. I need to put out a South German saying that always pops up into my mind while you're talking. It's when something is urgent, take it slowly, which I think is so true,
yeah,
and it always comes back to me because you have always these urgencies, right? And they're good. They drive, especially in a startup, they bring you put things forward and make sure that things are moving, but you need to take them slowly so that you can actually sustain and to deploy them well, to do them well, but also to survive and have a good work-life balance.
yeah. Sadly, theory and practice are two different things. So
Yeah, of course.
yeah.
Now we spoke a lot about how you do it for yourself, and I think and we spoke also a bit how you lived this as a leader and brought it into a product team. But is there anything that you would say um, in your role as a CTO you can make sure that your team is aware of, or practices that you can have in the team to ensure that they have a good work-life balance and that people don't burn out?
Mm. Um, Good question. So I think what we do at 9 a.m. already is a pretty good approach. So we have flexible working hours. We have the unlimited vacation policy, which I know some see as critical because it also means like you feel bad if you take it. But I think by me taking it as well openly, I think I show that everybody can take vacations. So I'm not the one that is always working and then make other people bad if they take vacation. So I think by living as a manager or as a leader,
For
a good
example, yeah.
work-life balance, you also allow others to follow suit. And also by not criticizing people if they take off, even though they actually have quite a lot to do, but just asking like, oh, do you have something nice planned, for example, or just being positive about it. It's
Mhm.
just the attitude makes a big difference because you could say like, we don't have time for this, right? And make them feel bad, but it doesn't change anything, right? In the
Mhm.
end, if they need the time, they need the time. Um,
Yeah. It's
and
also checking in and seeing, okay, what is it that they need right now, or why are they not performing,
mm,
perhaps, and
right,
encouraging them to take time off. Yeah. Yeah, I
because
think you
yeah,
mentioned
exactly.
unlimited. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, what you said is really important. Exactly. Um, there are times where you just put a lot of hours in because you have to ship something, but then also encourage people to take time off and say like maybe take a couple of weeks even off, right?
Yeah.
Because it's been really quite stressful just to make sure you don't burn out. Yeah. So
Yeah, we've
actively
done.
encouraging people.
I'm very happy that we've done several cases of sabbaticals in the company already, which is just something that I see when people come back, that they just come back with a fresher mindset. The same with 4-day work week. We never managed to make the full move to 4-day work week, but if someone wants to do 4-day work week, then it's perfectly fine. I think a lot of flexibility and understanding each person's situation helps a lot. Yeah.
Exactly. Because in the end, it just the output has to match what the company gives. And this needs to be an open, transparent dialogue. And as long as this is fine, I think everybody should take the time they need and put in as much as they can. Um,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Cool. Really interesting. Thank you so much. I have one more surprise question for you, and that is, they would like to understand or want to hear if you have any tool, book, snippet, something that you absolutely love these days and that you would recommend others to check out. I mean, don't say GPT, but so, um, anything else that you had the
Um,
feeling, wow, this changed my life in the last year when it comes to coding, or private life actually?
that's a tough one because you took out ChatGPT because it really is amazing, and I use it for a lot of things right now. Um,
So a lot of things also for coding or
yeah,
for
sure.
anything.
I mean, no, for anything, but also for coding, it's just a game changer. So I probably most of people who are coders and listen to this, they already use GitHub Copilot, which is ChatGPT for coding. If not, please do it. It's a game changer. But
And
personal
using
life,
Notion, personal life, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I mean Notion is also really nice, but I think those are nowadays probably standard tools, and a lot of companies switch to it. So I think it's not a secret tip anymore. Um, if it is,
Yeah.
also check out Notion. You're right. Um,
And with a great setup, right?
um,
And I know we have OKRs in there, connected projects and tasks and so
hmm,
on. I think uh, I can say from the product team, they have a quite advanced setup. If you ever have any questions on how Daniel has set up the Notion, it's definitely worth pinging him. So yeah.
yeah. Um, I don't have a really powerful tool in mind right now. So when it comes to coding, I just can recommend to everybody learn touch typing in a way that you never ever look at your keyboard because it frees up so much of your mental capacity if you can just keep looking on the screen and don't have to switch all the time back, like up and down. I know there's a lot of coders who still look at the keyboard. Don't do it. It's really a game changer if you don't.
That's
Other than
nice.
this, mm,
That's nice. That's very nice. And I have one for ChatGPT, and that is if you come home after a day of work and you don't know what to cook or what to do, just ask ChatGPT. The other day I want to have a cocktail. I said, well, I got gin, I got limes, and I don't know, I have something else. What cocktails can I make? And ChatGPT gave me 3 different cocktail ideas. And I didn't drink all of them, so no worries, but it's a good way to use it also for sometimes some relaxed things and to switch off. Daniel, thank you so much. That's been really great. It was great having you here today. Really inspiring the way that you do it and the topics that we tapped into. I'm sure that everyone is allowed to contact you in LinkedIn if they have any questions, questions regarding
Absolutely.
productivity hacks or the like. So thanks a lot. For everyone that's listening, please subscribe to our podcast. It continues. The 4th one is already in plans. So until next time, keep coding, keep leading.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.